The drumbeat that calls the people must not deceive them. This is about leadership, loyalty, and accountability. Hi, my name is Kofi Asante Mensah. Welcome to our special edition of the Pulse of the Week here on NSG News, the future of Ghanaian journalism, digital journalism, news with integrity. Tonight, we are not just discussing a headline, we are confronting a national warning. 7, now it is 8 Ghanaian traders, ordinary men and women pursuing honest livelihoods, have been brutally killed in Titao in northern Burkina Faso. This tragedy raises our urgent question: how close is terrorism to Ghana's doorstep, and are we ready? Joining us to have a passionate discussion and nationalistic discussion is our friend and our colleague here on this very network, Dr. Prosper Ni Norte Ado, currently in South Sudan. He is a security expert and he's joining us for this passionate and nationalistic discussion. Once again, welcome to Pulse of the Week. This is the midweek edition. Straight away, I'll be going straight to South Sudan to welcome Dr. Prosper Ni Norte Ado. Doc, good evening and welcome to the program.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Maybe you have to unmute for me.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I hope you are doing well,
Hello?
sir.
Yes, I'm doing well.
And how is South Sudan?
Well, South Sudan is okay. So far, so good.
So far, so good. If I may, what took you from us to South Sudan?
I work here, I'm based here.
Right.
So I have an official hat and I also have an informal hat. So currently I'm wearing the informal hat
I understand.
as a security analyst.
Now let's get into it right away. What would make terrorists target traders? What signal does it show?
It's a rather worrying situation. Kofi, we had this discussion some time back. And if you can remember, I spoke about the intention being ideological. People who base their actions on some ideological beliefs. In their mind's eye, they think that everybody must conform to their religious way. And that's the Islamic faith. But here, it's an extreme form of belief where they want to impose the Sharia on everyone. And so this is what they profess. And some go to the extent of saying that Western education is abominable, which is the group called Boko Haram and a few others. Yet they go into using Western technology and all kinds of sophisticated methods to cause mayhem and harm. It's rather unfortunate that as a result of these and other reasons, it led to the killing of 8 of Ghanaian nationals. But there were also other nationals killed, not only in Titao, but other places in Faso, in restaurants, in hotels. It's a very worrying situation, and that just tells us that we need to really be up and doing, because this can happen anywhere and can involve anybody.
I would take your attention to Ghana, but before I do so, Burkina Faso, before 2016, if I am right, lived quite a happy and a peaceful country. Why has Burkina Faso become a hotbed for terrorism attack, and even the Sahel region? What is causing it?
In 2011, 2012, I was privileged to be part of a delegation, a humanitarian delegation led by UN OCHA that went to Mali, to Niger, and to Burkina Faso. There were some humanitarian issues. So we went there to assess the situation and see how best to help. And it surprised me about the terrain. Some parts are quite, what word should I use? The savannah area, intense heat, very bare, vegetation is sparse. But we were under heavy security. We were guarded and went deep into the hinterlands in Mali, in Niger, and also some parts of Burkina Faso, where we went to visit some internally displaced persons and all that. And so down the year around 2013, 2014 coming, when all these things started, then it began to make a bit of sense. To the extent that now Burkina Faso has become so insecure in addition to all these other 3 countries, and a couple more in Nigeria and other parts. But that just tells us that these terrorists have an agenda. They want to spread across the West African region, and that is why they're doing what they're doing.
Very well. Now, I'm getting quite worried, and I do not have to express emotions. But for the most Ghanaians in Ghana, the question, as I asked friends, media colleagues, they keep asking us, how close is this menace, this terror menace? How close is it to the doorsteps of Ghana?
Kofi, let's put this in context. And so I was in a shopping mall in Nairobi. And that very shopping mall, unfortunately, we lost the professor, Kofi Awoonor.
Awoonor, yeah.
Yeah, if you remember him.
I do.
And when I was walking in those malls, I imagined what was going on. And we also saw the footage live. So it's not only a matter of being in Ghana and fearing, but one could be anywhere. I give you an example of Burkina Faso. While that incident happened in Titao, with the killing of those traders who went for tomatoes and onions and all that, right in a hotel called Splendid, attacks were also taking place in that hotel. Some nationals were killed, others severely injured. Canadians, Swiss nationals, French, and a couple of others. So it's not only being in Ghana and thinking that, okay, it hasn't come yet. You can be anywhere in the world, and that can affect you seriously. You can lose a loved one, a relation. And so this is how worrying the situation is. But again, back home in Ghana, this is not the first time we're having this conversation. I have always said that let's not take it for granted, particularly crowded places and strategic installations. Airport, where anybody gets up and walk in there, Accra shopping mall or marina and others. All those places are places where these people like to operate. And mind you, because they are amorphous, some of them come into town, go across the border and go back. And so it's not like they are not around. They are within. The only thing is that if we are not vigilant, they take advantage. And so we have to be extra careful and be watchful, particularly in the area of intelligence sharing and adopting the preventive measures.
Right. I'm tempted to ask you something related to ECOWAS, but before I do that, because you mentioned this menace doesn't fear any country, so I was making an exclusive case for how we are feeling as Ghanaians. How close is it to our doorsteps? But you've made me to understand that it doesn't fear any country, and it is almost traveling around, and it's so much getting close to us. Now, I want us to talk about the recruitment of some of these terrorists. In Ghana, we have seen some before where people were purported to have received information from some terrorist groups, sort of recruiting them. Is poverty and marginalization a part of the scheme they use to recruit these people?
Very much so, Kofi. And if you realize, particularly within the community level, they exploit people who are poor. They entice them either online or physically, telling or promising them to give them a lot of money. And in the earlier years, you would see some of them being strapped with explosive and all that. But then they settle their families and they go and they may be on an airplane or in a hotel or anywhere and detonate those explosives on them. In fact, they get them so much brainwashed that these people are willing and ready to do anything. So whatever our kids are doing online, the youth, we must watch them carefully. You know, those who are very prone to all these kinds of activities on the internet and all that. It's important that we are careful, because they induce people whom they think are vulnerable by enticing them with financial kind of packages.
Right. Now let me go to the ECOWAS bit. But of course, we all have to be very careful online. 16 years, sometimes below 15, they have tablets, they have social media handles, and they are browsing the internet like something. So we have to be careful. Parents watching us, let's be so careful. Doctor, if you are just joining us, I'm in session with Dr. Prosper Ni Norteado, a security expert, and we are discussing the subjects: battle against terror attacks. 7, now 8 Ghanaian traders killed in Titao, all the way in Burkina Faso. We understand those who were injured, per what the president said today, was it today or last night? He indicated that military would escort them. We understand they have safely arrived in the country and they are doing well. Let me get to ECOWAS. You think ECOWAS has the expertise to be able to support the fight or the battle we are waging against terrorism?
Kofi, I think it's even gone beyond the issue of expertise. Whether they have it or not, they must. And here, it's not like ECOWAS is going to start from the scratch, because we are very much informed that ECOWAS has been engaged on counterterrorism strategy activities. Perhaps the issue is it has to be reinforced to make it more potent, to be able to counter, these terror acts. And perhaps I'm going to outline a few measures along maybe 3 major points.
Great.
First, the preventive, then the mitigation measures to take, and then perhaps the third aspect will be, if this happens, how to manage it.
Right.
On the preventive, to avoid all these things happening, indeed, we have talked about regional security and the need for security cooperation in the ECOWAS region. All member states have to contribute to ensuring that the region is safe from these terrorists. You see, the issue is that there are many, and some of their names are even difficult to mention. That you have the JNIM that caused that havoc in Burkina Faso, and made up of about 4 groups, some which splintered from others and came together and operated in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. There are others like the Islamic group in the Greater Sahara, Islamic, State in the West African province, Movement for unity and jihad in West Africa, meaning they want to spread all these across. So, and Boko Haram, and then the group continues. Now, what that means is that they go across borders. And if they go across borders, member states must have measures in place to collaborate and fight this menace. Now, at that ECOWAS level, we know, for instance, that when there was an outbreak of conflict in Liberia, based on the willingness and commitment of Nigeria, Ghana, and a few other countries, they were able to raise ECOMOG to go in there and maintain, or keep the peace, later on do peace building and all that. In a similar manner, ECOWAS must reinforce this ECOWAS standby force. We know they're planning to contribute about 1,650 to 5,000 troops in this regard. But this must happen, and a lot more need to be done to ensure that these people are deployed. And the deployment could either be in specific locations or reinforce already existing structures on the ground, like the Multinational Joint Task Force, complemented by this Accra initiative that wants to stop the spread of terrorist activities down to the coastal areas. So that's our, on the preventive side. Again,
right.
Yes. Again, the issue of tracking these people by drones and other sophisticated gadgets, the issue of training these forces are important. The other aspect now is also the mitigation, meaning that we must make the impact less, even if it happens. And this will mean that in all these places where these things are likely to take place, people are aware of the possibility and know what to do when it happens. And also that it comes to the issue of community resilience across the ECOWAS region. People must know about this. And also, government or member states must deploy always their security agencies or personnel in strategic installations and crowded places, so they are able to prevent or deter or respond if this should, happen. The third aspect, perhaps, is when this happens and what to do.
That's the management.
Again, it all depends on exactly the management, and it needs partnerships. The security agencies alone cannot do this. They need to collaborate with their civilian partners to be able to do this. If somebody picks up something fishy, the person must inform the appropriate quarters, the police, military police, whichever security agency is nearest or something like that. So measures can be deployed and things like that. Vigilance is important, info sharing, training, logistics for troops, and all these are all important. So along these lines, measures must be put in place within the ECOWAS region. Of course, this must be reinforced at the continental level by efforts of the African Union and also donor support through the European Union and other recognized organizations like the UN to complement these efforts.
Look, I'm going to take a breather so that you can also pause and rest for some little time, just a minute, and I'll come back to interrogate these three measures you've outlined for me: preventive, mitigation, and management. I have some few questions to draw information from you. I'll be right back, Doc.
Very well, thank you.
Hi there. What number is this? 3, right? All right. It's time for NSG News. Welcome. My name is Kofi Asante Mensah, and here at NSG News, you'll get serious documentary to watch, news, reviews, views, and what have you, because we have Pulse of the Week and also exclusive on the hot seat. On NSG News, we say news with integrity. Hi there.
Get used to it. I have stepped into my new beginning. Yesterday
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure having you. My name is Kofi Asante Mensah. If you're not joining us, this is NSG News, and the program is Pulse of the Week. And my name is Kofi Asante Mensah. I'm in session with Dr. Prosper Ni Norte Ado, security experts all the way in South Sudan. We are discussing what happened on Friday. I think the announcement came on Saturday, on the Vows Day, but basically it happened on Friday. We've gone through it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, today is Wednesday, and we are having a passionate discussion, nationalistic approach to it. He has suggested about 3 things, talking about solutions to this menace, talking about preventative measures and mitigation of it, and how we can manage it. Doc, I want to get back to you and ask about the prevention, and ask about the early signs or the early warning signs one has to pick up if we want to really prevent some of these menace, as traders, as ordinary community members, what have you. Of course, there were some few initiatives. If you see something, you say something, and all of that. I'm not sure it's ignoring most benefits for us. I'm not sure. But what would you advise by way of prevention?
So, Kofi, because of the way these people operate, they are very well armed, they are well trained, but for them, they can use anything. It can even be someone just using a knife on the streets of London, attacking 2-3 people. It becomes a headline. That's how amorphous the activities are. Or it can be 3-4 people going into a supermarket and just spraying people down. They are so vicious, they are so barbaric, they are so evil in their intent. And so they either kidnap, or abduct, they maim, they throw bombs, and they do all those things. And so immediately anybody picks up any unusual happenings around, the person must immediately look out for a security personnel to inform. And this is why also that we need to be talking a bit more about these terrorists, their activities, what they do. In some places, they capture a whole community. They begin to tax the people for their activities. They also do kidnappings to get ransom and all that. And so when these things are ongoing, these are signs to anybody around to say that, look, something untoward is happening and we need to take corrective measures. So it's all about information sharing, intelligence gathering by security agencies and national security and all that. Of course, readiness by an anti-terrorist squad. There must be a counter-terrorism strategy in place for a country. I think Ghana has one across West Africa. It must be there for all member states, drawing from a broader counter-terrorism strategy for ECOWAS, of which civilians must be aware of basic responses in terms of what happens when we encounter some of these activities. So that partnership is so crucial at the community level. Again, the wider issue of eliminating or addressing the issue of poverty is important, because they induce or lure or forcibly get people to be recruited to perform some of these activities. We need to let people know that when all these things are going on, this may be the reason. And so when we create that awareness and all that, it goes a long way to help prevent or to help mitigate effects when they happen.
Do you think people trust sharing information with the police? Because I am here in Ghana, you're a Ghanaian, you've been here all your life, and people don't want to get encounter with the police. So when they see something, they will rather shut their mouth. And the police have not exuded confidence so much to the populace. So it becomes an issue.
We don't have a choice. If you want to protect a relative, a loved one, or excuse me, a community member, you don't have a choice but to be vigilant and do these things, because this may come to your doorstep, or you may get caught up some way, somehow. And again, me being very religious, we are only protected by God because this thing can take place anywhere in your surroundings. And so we must all partner to be able to have effective responses.
Doc, let's move on to our borders. I heard you say something relating to that. How important is our border to this conversation? I'm talking about border intelligence unit, if you may call it that way. How is Ghana and other ECOWAS member states our border? We have very porous borders.
Kofi, I've published something way back, I think 2006, when I was at the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center on cross-border criminal activities and the need for effective responses. That was informed by my travel from Ghana to Benin and back and what I witnessed. The border is so porous, and a lot of things go on in terms of crime, organized crime. And so it requires that coordination and collaboration to strengthen those borders. But again, there are barriers like language barrier. Ways of doing things are also a bit different. You have the police here, and the military and all that. You have the gendarmes, and sometimes the way they operate slightly different. And so that's why there's a need for constant training, coordination, and collaboration to understand each other and collaborate a bit more. But the interesting I noticed is the corruption that thrives at the border. And that informs its porous nature and how some of these activities can easily happen. Okay. So if you take, for instance, Ghana-Togo border, a lot of things go on there. Things move across. All you have to do is to be able to speak the Ewe language well. People know your face, so they know you live in a community. You can easily cross with a weapon without being searched, unless you look suspicious or you are driving a vehicle which is not too familiar. Then they get suspicious. But even if they detect anything and you are able to pay well, unfortunately, some of them get compromised. These are the difficult things we need to be able to address to handle these cross-border issues, because it all contributes to how these people come down. And that's why the Accra Initiative, which wants to prevent the spilling over of these activities from the Sahel region into the coastal areas, must be taken seriously and expanded throughout the whole of West Africa, reinforced to make sure that it gets the desired impact.
Then it simply means it will be so difficult for us to win this battle. with the kind of expressions you've made. I'm waiting to get a copy of your book and go through it, because you've traveled a lot, and having that experience and writing about it is very important to go through and read them. But it tells me it will be so difficult to win this border security or border intelligence security.
Kofi is leadership. Where there's a way, there's a will.
Do you
the
believe
leaders
in
must
the
commit to it.
do you believe in the John Mahama leadership? He has been suggested for even AU chairmanship.
I believe in his leadership. I think he's doing a lot. It's not based on politics. It's just looking at what is happening currently, and I'm basing my judgment on that. I think showing that basic level of commitment, it's a first step. But beyond that is committing resources, and you having other peers to support you in your initiative, because it cannot be done by just one country. It has to be done across board. And that is why consistent, sustained effort through training, coordination, collaboration is so important. If we don't do it by ourselves, we don't expect anybody to come and help us do it. And even if those who are coming to help us have been coming, but we're still having the problem, that tells us that we need to do a bit more.
I have to move because I think the Accra initiative was signed under former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, right?
Yeah, sometime I think in 2015 there about 14, 15, I guess.
Okay. Okay. Then that wouldn't be under Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo came to power, I think 15, you say?
Yeah,
Okay.
2014, 2015 there about, if my memory serves me right. And Kofi, there's another aspect to this whole
Right.
thing. You see, the nature of these terrorists, the way they operate, is that they can easily integrate into the communities. And so when you're fighting them and you are not careful and they are compromised, or to say they are eliminated, sometimes it hits the news to say civilians have been killed, which may not necessarily be the case, or which may also be the case. And so response, it's very important that in the training, human rights dimensions are incorporated. So for instance, if these people are captured, how to treat them is important. You can use some of these people to infiltrate some of these groupings and know their activities and know how to counter their strategies. Okay, and also that in terms of use of force, it must be direct, it must be proportional in certain instances. But sometimes it's so difficult to separate them from civilians.
Two key major questions, Doc, then I would allow you, because I know your hours are quite more ahead of ours here. And one has to do with, this was quite in line with trading. The 8 people who lost their lives, they are all traders. Going forward, I have heard the association say they are going to pause for a while, but going forward, what would you advise? Should we have police or military escort for them, or what would you suggest?
So, Kofi, let me first express deepest condolences to families and loved ones who lost these precious lives. These are products we buy on the market. They are simply making ends meet before they met this unfortunate incident. We pray that their soul rest in perfect peace. But going forward, we need to be learning lessons from these developments. It should not just be that this happens and then we forget about it, something else takes the headline, and when it happens, then we start repeating same things. Measures must be put in place. And as you're asking what should we do,
Yeah.
they must be informed of some of these places they are traveling to. Of course, sometimes it's difficult to tell. But those areas they were moving, it was clear we had these groups operating from the midsection of Burkina Faso to the border areas. Though those were hotbeds they went into and were unfortunately caught by these incidents. And those people split themselves and attacked various installations, including security forces. So how could a defenseless trader know about this, that he or she is getting into this territory, to the extent they are caught, killed, bent, and dealt such a bad blow? And so information is important, and also that people must then begin to be more aware of the environment. When you're traveling, you must know where you're going. Your security is of much concern. You must get more information, traders, and even those drivers who travel along these corridors to Mali, to Burkina Faso, and all that. But again, it fits into the whole issue of making the corridors safe. Those major corridors that the traders, go through. Because you see, trade is vital for the growth and development of our economies.
Right.
And we have to ensure that we do these things to protect these traders, those who commute these places and all that, and remain vigilant all the time.
Look, I want to request a special advice. I'm a media person, having practiced this year will be 20 years, and I want you to talk to my colleague, media personnel. What advice would you give to media persons in the wake of issues like this, especially radio, television stations in the northern part of our country, Upper East, Upper West, Northern Red Savannah, and all those environments? What advice do you have for the media and the Ghanaian populace?
I think number one is that people should begin to specialize. Not one person just covering every issue at the same time. And then once they begin to also build the experience, the capacity through training, they are better informed to know how to open that space for people to understand the issues, ask the right questions to policymakers, demand of them to implement policies that have been put in place, strategies and all that, ask all the necessary questions. It's important that the space is used to ensure that policies put in place, promises made are enforced. And also that you create the awareness and sensitization. And so when people begin to specialize in respective areas and they always follow up on issues like this, there's always information out there and people are vigilant and they are attentive and they listen to some of these things and they are able to be aware of the environment and know what to do when and how the need arises.
Very, very well. I was saying that would be my last one, but I've been prompted, not by anyone though, to find out what you make of when the incident happened. We never had a proper communication throughout the weekend. I think we had the Interior Minister, and even we do not, as a country, we do not have a substantive Defense Minister. And you know, the Interior has to do more with the interior security, police, and what have you in the country. So, having been attacked by terrorists, attack in Burkina Faso, and there is no Interior Minister, the man with supervisory jurisdiction by way of Interior is the Finance Minister. He is saddled with a lot of cocoa issues and is preparing to read budgets and etc. What do you make of getting a substantive Defense Minister in the shortest possible time? And how also, the second one is how government communicated and navigated the whole issue from when its inception, when it happened on Friday or even Saturday till today?
Okay, so the first aspect of it is that indeed it's always important to have substantive ministers at post. But indeed, it's also your international practice that when they are not there, you have a minister covering that position, because you also have the deputies and you also have the chief directors and directors and all that. And so that shouldn't be much of an issue, to the extent that there are others who play that role, and the ministers are policy decision makers who are supported by those technocrats, and even the deputy can easily step in for the minister. And so I'm not saying that it's not important, but it's not to say that if there is no defense minister, these things happen. Whether they are there or not, it happens. But it's important that they are also there to ensure that quick decisions are made, because then in that capacity, they have to collaborate with their counterparts in other neighboring countries. And that makes things happen faster. But also, maybe the delay could also be, I don't know, but it could be that because of where it happened, sometimes information flow may take time, or having access to these areas could also be an issue. I wouldn't know. But indeed, having informationally enough is also important for effective responses. So that is also very crucial, that in terms of our responses, we also make sure that we also are up and doing. The only thing I noticed was that even if the government of Ghana wanted to do something, the area was cordoned off. So they couldn't have even had access to the place unless they collaborated with their counterparts. And perhaps that was what was done before those other people were escorted back to the country and all that. Unfortunately, those who couldn't make it had to be buried there. And so, indeed, we need a substantive minister immediately. And also, we need that coordination and collaboration for effective responses. It's very important that that happens.
Doc, I want to say a very big thank you to you. The patience you have for us and the time spent with us, it's so precious. Doc, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Family, we've been engaging Dr. Prosper Ni-Nortey Addo, security expert, and he is all the way in South Sudan. And we were talking about the terrorism attack that occasioned over the weekend, actually on Friday. And we have lost about 8 compatriots. And these are men and women who have gone to Burkina Faso, Tau, to bring some produce from there. Tomatoes from there to sell, and they've lost their lives. It's quite devastating. And they say terrorism thrives where silence, poverty, and weak intelligence meet. The blood of innocent Ghanaian traders in Tau, Burkina Faso, must awaken us today. It must awaken us today, not tomorrow. My name is Kofi Asante Mensah, and this is our special broadcast and a special production for today. We'll meet again on Friday, God willing. Have a blessed evening.